Words have power. Power to inspire, power to comfort, and in rare cases, power to terrify. The most haunting words don't always come from ghost stories or horror movies. Sometimes they come from real-life monsters, killers whose actions shocked the world and whose words still send shivers down our spines. In this video, we're peeling back the curtain on 10 of the most chilling quotes ever spoken by notorious killers. Each quote tells a story, and behind every story lies unimaginable horror, cruelty, and sometimes a glimpse of their unfiltered, unapologetic evil. Number 1. Carl Panzram was the embodiment of pure, unapologetic evil. 1. He spent most of his life in and out of prison, harboring an unrelenting hatred for humanity. Panzram's crimes were as varied as they were horrific. He confessed to burglaries, arson, and countless assaults, but what earned him infamy was his cold-blooded murder spree. By his own account, he claimed to have killed over 20 people and more than 1,000 boys and men during his lifetime. He carried out some of his murders aboard a stolen yacht, luring his victims with promises of work before ending their lives and tossing their bodies into the sea. His hatred knew no bounds, and he viewed life, his own and others, as utterly meaningless. But what truly cemented Panzram's place in the annals of infamy was his terrifying honesty. He never sought redemption and wore his crimes like a badge of honor. When asked about his feelings toward society, he once said,
"I wish the human race had one neck so I could choke it."
This chilling quote encapsulates the depth of his misanthropy and the sheer malice that fueled his actions. Even in prison, where he was eventually executed in 1930, Panzram remained defiant to the very end. When the executioner asked if he had any last words, Panzram sneered and spat,
"Hurry it up, you Hoosier bastard. I could kill 10 men while you're fooling around."
Panzram wasn't just a killer, he was a force of hatred, leaving a legacy that continues to terrify and bewilder those who study his life. 2. Jane Toppin, also known as Jolly Jane, appeared harmless enough. She worked as a nurse in the late 1800s, known for her cheerful demeanor and attentive care. But behind her friendly smile lurked a monster. Toppin used her position of trust to carry out some of the most disturbing murders of her time. She confessed to killing at least 31 people, often experimenting with different doses of morphine and atropine to see how her victims would react. For Toppin, it wasn't just about murder, it was about control, pleasure, and watching her victims suffer. She even admitted to climbing into bed with some of them as they died, relishing their last moments. When she was finally caught, Toppin revealed her true nature with one bone-chilling confession.
"My ambition is to have killed more people, helpless people, than any man or woman who ever lived."
This wasn't a fleeting thought or a heat-of-the-moment statement. It was her ultimate goal. Declared insane, Toppin was committed to a mental institution in 1902, where she spent the rest of her life. But her words, like her crimes, left a stain on history, proof that evil doesn't always wear a scowl. Sometimes it smiles right at you. 3. Ed Kemper, better known as the Co-Ed Killer, wasn't just another name in the annals of serial murderers. He was a terrifying combination of intelligence, physical intimidation, and unspeakable violence. Born in 1948, Kemper grew up in a deeply abusive household with a mother who berated and humiliated him at every turn. She forced him to sleep in the basement because she feared he would harm his sisters, a punishment that would fuel the hatred he carried for women throughout his life. At just 15 years old, Kemper committed his first murders, killing both of his grandparents in cold blood. Declared legally insane, he was sent to a mental institution but was released at 21, deemed rehabilitated. The system would come to regret that decision. In the early 1970s, Kemper began his spree of terror, targeting young female hitchhikers in California. Standing 6'9" and weighing over 250 pounds, he was physically imposing, but it was his charm and intellect that made him so dangerous. Posing as a friendly, non-threatening figure, he lured women into his car, only to unleash his violent fantasies upon them. In interviews, Kemper described the war waging inside his mind with chilling honesty. He once said,
"One side of me says, wow, what an attractive chick. I'd like to talk to her, date her. The other side of me says, I wonder how her head would look on a stick."
That duality, a desire for connection and a compulsion for destruction, defined his crimes. Kemper's killing spree ended in 1973 after he murdered his own mother in an act of grotesque brutality. He later confessed to the police, describing his crimes in detail as though recounting mundane events. Kemper was sentenced to life in prison, where he remains to this day, a figure as haunting for his intellect as for his crimes. 4. Aileen Wuornos is one of the most infamous female serial killers in American history, and her chilling words reflect the darkness that consumed her. Born in 1956, Wuornos had a life marked by abuse, abandonment, and a deep-seated hatred toward men. By the time she was 34, she had already endured a lifetime of trauma, including being a victim of SA and living on the streets. In 1989, Wuornos began killing men who picked her up while she was working as a sex worker along Florida's highways. Over the span of a year, she murdered 7 men, claiming they had either tried to assault or kill her. But it wasn't just survival driving her actions, it was rage, a violent fury that festered for years. When she was arrested in 1991, she gave a statement that shocked the world.
"I robbed them and killed them as cold as ice, and I would do it again, and I know I would kill another person because I've hated humans for a long time."
Wuornos's words weren't just a confession, they were a declaration of her deep disdain for humanity, particularly for men. Her life and crimes were shaped by her profound mistrust and hatred of the very people who had tormented her. In 2002, after years of appeals, Wuornos was executed by lethal injection, her life and legacy forever marked by the brutal killings she committed in cold blood. 5. Albert Fish, often referred to as the Gray Man or the Boogeyman, was a sadistic serial killer whose crimes shocked even the most hardened law enforcement. Born in 1870, Fish's life was one of unspeakable depravity. Known for his bizarre and horrific cannibalistic tendencies, he preyed on young children, luring them with promises of treats or kind words. His most notorious crime took place in 1928 when he abducted a 10-year-old girl named Grace Budd. After her disappearance, Fish wrote a letter to the girl's parents that would later send shivers down the spines of anyone who read it. He confessed in graphic detail what he had done to Grace, including the chilling statement,
"How she did kick, bite, and scratch. I choked her to death, then cut her in small pieces so I could take my meat to my rooms, cook and eat it."
It's a small glimpse into the warped mind of a man whose thirst for cruelty went far beyond murder. Fish was arrested in 1934, and after a lengthy trial, was executed by electric chair in 1936. His legacy is one of grotesque horror, and his actions continue to haunt the annals of criminal history. 6. H. Holmes, often regarded as America's first serial killer, committed his heinous crimes in the late 1800s, right in the heart of Chicago. Known for building a murder castle, a hotel equipped with hidden traps and soundproof rooms, Holmes lured his victims, many of them young women, into his lair where he would torture, kill, and sometimes even sell their bodies. But perhaps the most chilling aspect of his personality was his utter lack of remorse. He once said,
"I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer, no more than the poet can help the inspiration to sing. I was born with the evil one, standing as my sponsor beside the bed where I was ushered into the world, and he has been with me since."
Holmes's belief that he was born to kill reflects the terrifying depths of his depravity. He was arrested in 1894, convicted of murder, and executed by hanging in 1896. But the horrors he committed have haunted history ever since. 7. Dennis Rader, known as the BTK Killer, terrorized Kansas for over 3 decades, eluding capture while brutally murdering 10 people between 1974 and 1991. His nickname stood for bind, torture, kill, the pattern of violence he inflicted on his victims. Rader was a family man, a church leader, and a seemingly normal member of his community. But behind this facade was a cold, calculating killer. In one of his chilling confessions, he stated,
"When this monster entered my brain, I will never know, but it is here to stay. How does one cure himself? I can't stop it. Monster goes on and hurts me as well as society."
Rader's admission speaks to the terrifying nature of his compulsion, a monster he could neither understand nor control. He was finally arrested in 2005 after a decades-long killing spree and is currently serving 10 consecutive life sentences in prison. His words continue to haunt as they reveal just how deeply he believed in his own monstrous nature. 8. Susan Atkins, a key member of the infamous Manson family, was involved in the brutal murders of actress Sharon Tate and several others in 1969. Under the influence of Charles Manson, Atkins and her fellow cult members embarked on a violent rampage, believing they were fulfilling Manson's apocalyptic vision. Atkins, who was the first to confess to the murders, later revealed a chilling detail about her actions that night.
"I don't know how many times I stabbed Tate, and I don't know why I stabbed her. She kept begging and pleading and begging and pleading, and I got sick of listening to it, so I stabbed her."
Atkins' words reflect a terrifying lack of empathy. Her violent outburst fueled not by necessity, but by sheer boredom and frustration with her victims' pleas. She was convicted of murder and spent the rest of her life in prison before dying in 2009. The Tate LaBianca murders continue to haunt the American consciousness, a grotesque chapter in the Manson family's reign of terror. 9. The Zodiac Killer, one of the most infamous and mysterious serial killers in American history, terrorized the San Francisco Bay Area in the late 1960s and early 1970s. His identity remains unknown to this day, despite numerous investigations and theories. What set the Zodiac apart from other killers was his love of taunting the police and the media, sending cryptic letters and ciphers, reveling in the fear he created. In one of his letters, he boldly declared,
"Killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous of them all."
This chilling statement offers a disturbing glimpse into the mind of a killer who found joy in the destruction of human life. The Zodiac's killing spree claimed at least 5 victims, though he claimed to have killed many more. Despite decades of investigation, his true identity has never been confirmed, leaving behind an unsolved mystery that still haunts the public imagination. 10. Charles Manson, the leader of the so-called Manson family, remains one of the most notorious cult leaders in history. Charismatic and manipulative, Manson convinced his followers to commit a series of brutal murders in 1969, including the high-profile killings of actress Sharon Tate and others. Manson's ability to control and influence his followers, especially vulnerable young people, was nothing short of terrifying. Throughout his life, Manson frequently made grandiose and delusional statements about his supposed divinity. One such chilling declaration was,
"I am Jesus Christ. Whether you want to accept it or not, I don't care."
Manson's belief in his own godlike status was central to his manipulation of his followers, many of whom saw him as a messianic figure. His quote reflects the dangerous arrogance that drove him to orchestrate the killings, believing himself to be a messiah guiding his followers into a violent revolution. Manson was arrested, convicted of murder, and spent the rest of his life in prison, where he died in 2017. His legacy is one of delusion, control, and bloodshed. And as we've seen with each of these chilling quotes, the words of infamous killers often reveal more than just their actions. They give us a glimpse into their minds, a window into the darkness that drove them to commit unspeakable acts. From the delusional self-proclamations of Charles Manson to the cold detachment of Ed Kemper, these killers not only left behind a trail of horror, but also left us with words that echo long after their crimes. Sometimes the most chilling part isn't the act itself, but the cold, calculated thoughts that precede it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, please stay safe out there, and as always, stay curious.